Hello, everyone. Welcome to the University of Maryland Extension's Zooming into Healthy Horsekeeping 2020 webinar series. We're excited to have all of you joining us live and for those of you that are listening in to this recording later. My name is Jennifer Reynolds. I'm the Extension Activity Coordinator for Equine Programs at the University of Maryland, and I'll be assisting behind the scenes as host. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Erica Crowell. Erica is the agriculture educator for the University of Maryland Extension in Baltimore County. She started with Extension in Maryland as a nutrient management advisor and moved into her current role as an ag educator in 2018. She is a graduate of Colorado State University with a Bachelor's of Science in Equine Science and provides outreach and education in areas of equine and livestock management, pasture management, and soil health. As a Harford County native, she grew up riding with Elkridge Harford Hunt Pony Club, and in her spare time, she still enjoys fox hunting with Elkridge Harford and Mount Carmel, and also rides some amateur steeplechase and flat races. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Erica, and let you begin.
Great, thank you. Welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful weather we've been having. Let me see. Okay. So today I'm going to talk about nutrient management on horse farms. I know this kind of sounds like a daunting task sometimes. Maryland Department of Agriculture is who kind of runs the nutrient management program, and University of Maryland has partnered with them for since 1998 when they started this to get plans out to folks, any type of farmers, and they also include us that have horses. So today we're going to talk about the laws, the regulations, understand why you need a plan, and then also how we can get you a plan and all the stuff that you're going to need to hand into your certified plan writer. And by the way, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we can answer them as we go along. So the Maryland Nutrient Management Law started in 1998 when the Maryland General Assembly passed this law requiring certain ag operations to have a nutrient management plan. The plan was, this program was developed to protect the water quality of the bay and its tributaries, ensuring that we are applying the fertilizers, manure properly and at the right time, and making sure that we're not having too much runoff and leaching into our bay. So you're probably wondering, do you need a plan? Who needs a plan? So you kind of have to ask these questions. Does your operation have a gross $2,500 or more a year? And or do you have 8 or more animal units? So animal units is 1,000 pounds. And so we really kind of, I say if you have 8 horses, you're going to need a plan. Unless you have a bunch of, mini ponies running around. But typically horses are weighing the average of 1,000 pounds anyway. And these plans are for the manager of the farm operation. So we have quite a bit of folks in Maryland that own a big farm and they have someone who operates the farm for them. That farm operator is actually who is in charge of this plan and needs to get it done. It's not specifically the landowner. So we're getting these plans done, like I said, to minimize nutrient losses of the farms into the environment, but also balancing farm profits. And when we're talking about the profits, we're talking from like the grain side of stuff, hay, and we're also pasture-wise. We have our horses on pasture typically throughout the year, and we're probably putting nutrients into the ground at some point, and we don't want to put too much or too little, right? So we need a good balance. And this will help you in the long run with saving money. And we know horses are expensive, so we want to save the money where we can. And we really stress about the 4 R's: right product, right time, right place, and right rate. So that is what encompasses this plan. And you get these plans done. Any Maryland Department of Ag certified nutrient management consultant can write a plan. We at the University of Maryland offer free plan writing. It's part of it's part of your tax dollars. We have an advisor in each county in Maryland that can write a plan for you. There's also private consultants A lot of the bigger farms have private consultants write their plans just because they will typically come out and do all the nitty-gritty work. Like they'll take the soil samples for you, any manure samples. You know, we don't take the samples for you, but we will write the plan for you. So if you're looking for, you know, your consultant in your county, you can go to our website, which is extension.umd.edu/ANMP, and I can put that in the chat later. This is the front page you see here on the right, and it says UME Nutrient Management Advisors on this map. And you can just click onto that, and it'll show you a list of the advisors in your respective counties. This link here, you can go to private consultants at MDA, and I will show you because I find MDA's website can be a little daunting at times. And on the side here, it says Certified Nutrient Management Consultants right on the right-hand side. You can click on that and it'll give you a PDF form of the consultants that are out there. Also, you can write your own plan. Hold on, I don't know what's going on. So you can also write your own plan if you'd like to. You would have to get certified through MDA and take a test, and then you can write your own plan. I'm sorry, my computer is locked up. I'm sorry, pausing. Oh, goodness, what's happened? It is sharing. Sorry. Sorry, everyone. My computer decided that it wanted to shut down my program. That was fun. Okay, we're back in action. Sorry. So you can write your own plan if you would like. I'd say if you're super into soil science and you really have a lot of time on your hands, then you should get certified. If not, it's probably easiest to let someone else write the plan for you. So next I'm going to go over what you need to hand to your certified plan writer for them to give you a plan back. So the number one thing you'll need are soil samples. Samples are good for 3 years. So this is, you know, something you don't have to do every year for them. The samples should be taken for every management unit that you have. So if you have 5 different fields, they're all kind of spread out throughout your farm, you're going to want 5 different samples. We also have a list of recommended soil testing labs that are on our website that you can print off. And you can go to the website and you'll see a list of like 20 different labs. When you click on their link, it'll say submittal form. You'll print off a submittal form. You want to make sure you do a Malic 3 test. And they have directions on there on how to fill out the form for you. So it's relatively easy. We have soil probes in our offices in the counties that we can lend you. And we also typically have soil bags that we can also help you with and give you directions on how to properly take a soil test. What I should have said before this, these plans last typically 3 years because they go with the soil analysis. If you are applying manure, you're going to get a plan every year. But a general pasture plan is every 3 years. And it's very easy to update once your consultant has all the information. So along with the soil samples, you'll also need manure samples if you are spreading manure and if you have more than 20 animal units. This is a new rule that just came out, I think it was last year, that if you have more than 20 animal units and are spreading manure, putting it on your pastures or anywhere on your farm, you'll need a manure sample. And they are valid for 1 year. If you have less than 20 animals, then we have a book values that the University of Maryland has come up with, and we can just use a rough estimate of the manure. It's basically, we're putting the nutrients down already, so manure is very variable in the nutrients that it's giving to the soil. So the book values work well. There's also on our extension page as well, there's testing labs that we recommend, and there's directions on how to properly take a sample. If taking a manure sample is kind of just like the soil sample, you want to make sure you have a good composite sample. You want to get into the center of the pile, and then you can send it off. You'll also need your property tax ID number. So I put a map up here of a plan that was just recently done, and you can see the black boundary lines here. They are all the different properties in this area. So you can see this property has several different property tax ID numbers. And so you'll want to get them off of the Maryland's Real Property Search. You click on that link, you can go to the website and just put in your address. And when you put in your address, it'll come up with the names and all your tax ID numbers. So it's very easy to find. Your consultant will probably draw up a map for you, but it would be really helpful if you came in with a Google image like this one on the right-hand side, so they know, where all your paddocks, your fields are. You can see I have them outlined here in white, and these maps have to have setbacks, and this is something your consultant can do. But you can see the streams with the red and green lines. They are the streams that are there, and you want to make sure that you don't have any streams that are running through your fields. If so, we have to do some setbacks to make sure you're not putting any nutrients into the water, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a couple of minutes. You also need crops that are grown. As we're talking about pastures, you want to pick the predominant grass that's grown in these fields, typically a tall fescue or orchard grass. If you're growing if you have some hay fields, then you would know. If you have some alfalfa, we definitely need to know if there's any legumes. And then if you are growing any type of corn, soybeans also on your farm, we need to know that as well. And the crop yields. Hay and pasture, we're typically looking, just like an orchard grass is probably 3 to 4 tons per acre. You're probably thinking, well, if it's pasture, how do I know? It's a rough guesstimate. And we do have some calculations for that the consultants can help you with as well. You have a question? Okay.
So, Erica, we do have two questions here. The first one is, any news on promoting the use of composted horse manure for healthy soils? And then the second question is, can the county use GIS to pull up appropriate maps as well?
So we do, promoting the use of composted manure is a great way of, you can still put that down. That's definitely, we promote that 100%. We actually would rather you compost the manure than it be sat, in a stockpile, because it would have more nutrient value to it if you are properly composting it. So yes, you can most certainly do that. The county, we do have GIS systems, and that's where that map came from, a GIS system actually from on the previous slide. So we do use the GIS, and which are fun with GIS. You can also, they show you the property tax ID numbers on them as well. So that makes it much more, it's easier for the consultant for sure. And I see there's another question, why the Malick 3? So Malick 3 is what it's what we use. It's what university, it's how they have done their calculations with the fertility index value. So that's why we choose to stick with the Malick 3. It's something that Trish Steinhilber had worked on with MDA years ago. So that's what we suggest. So we'll also need to know the animal numbers, how many animals you have. I know this is sometimes can be rough estimates of weights as well. And it can also be a rough estimate of animal numbers. You know, especially if you have a training barn and horses are coming in and out, you want to make, you know, as long as it's not going over 10% increase or decrease, then we don't need to know the, you know, every time you have a change, you don't have to call your consultant and be like, you know, I had 2 horses leave. There is some flexibility in there. You also need to know what type of bedding and how much you're typically using. So that's kind of important thing to know as well. And you'll want to know for bedding, we're going to want to know how much, kind of the weights of it, manure storage, where are you putting it, your turnout schedule, are the horses in 12 hours and out 12? Are they permanently on, you know, continuously on pasture? If you are spreading it, we're going to need to know your application rate. So that might sound pretty daunting. And we have, the county agents can come out and help you calibrate your manure spreaders. And we also have brochures that we can hand you on how to calibrate your manure spreaders. Very simple. It takes an hour max to calibrate it. And once you calibrate it, you write down all the numbers, and you know every time that you are spreading it, you know where, you know, your speed, your PTO speed, and you can keep that the same. Now, some of us might be transporting our manure, you might be exporting it. A lot of folks are exporting it up to Pennsylvania to the mushroom farms. We're gonna need to know the name of the farm, the name of the person that's receiving it, an address, and a phone number. So before they used to just want to know that you're getting rid of it and they didn't really care where it went. Now we're really tracking it of where it's going. And same as if you are importing any compost, if your neighbor has some manure and they don't have a place for it and they're bringing it to your farm, you want to have the same information and you want to know what is coming into your farm as well. So now I've gone over what exactly that you need. I want to show you what a plan would look like when you receive one. They can be quite big or they can be quite small. This is just a sample plan that the extension has up on their website. And this plan has multiple, let's see it. Okay, hold on. You share. Sorry, guys. Okay, can you see it now? So this plan is multiple. It has poultry litter, pasture animals, and I think it has some horses. So we're going to really look at the horses, but you'll see, let me go down. This is what the plan would look like. It'll have a cover letter, have your name, your address on it, a brief description. This gentleman has a broiler operation. He also has pastured horses in Kent County. The date of the plan that was written, and then the duration of the plan. So this goes from March 1, 2020 to February 20, 2021. So he, if it's a 1-year plan, he is typically spreading manure somewhere. And we do our plans from March 1st to February 28th, because that is the time that you're allowed to spread nutrients on the ground. Anytime, you know, December 15th to March 1st is winter, and we don't allow anything to be spread, any nutrients to be applied. We also have soil sampling, manure sampling. We want to know, you know, where you sent the analysis, when they need to be updated, how you're managing your manure. There is some phosphorus tools that we look at. If you have any this is typically for folks on the Eastern Shore. There's high phosphorus fields down there. The state is really paying attention to that now. And anything with a certain FIV number, they're not allowing any phosphorus to be applied to the ground. Up here on the other side, we don't typically run into this issue, and especially in pastures, you guys don't typically have a high phosphorus fields. And if I see a high phosphorus field in a pasture, I'm most likely going to ask you to re-sample because there might have been an error somewhere. We also, here is where your tax ID numbers are, your total cropland and pastures that we are working with. You have your animal numbers, the total, there is a sheet in here that has a total manure that's generated, how much that you can utilize on your farm, and then when you're applying it. They want to make sure you're not applying it in the winter time. So we have to we make sure we tell them when and where you're applying any manure. So let me get down to the actual good part of it, the recommendations. Sorry. There's a lot there. You can see this can be kind of a hefty plans. There's a lot taken in here. Here's the manure quantity estimation. This is how we know how much manure that you can utilize on your farm. So we have horses. This gentleman has 4 horses. They are not confined at all. It looks like they're outside 365 days. So he is generating 37 tons of manure a year, but he's not using any of it. It's all already on the pasture. Okay, so here's the recommendations. Let me go to the pasture one. It's at the bottom. Sorry. So you'll see here, this is how your recommendations will be brought up. They break it down to green up, post-harvest, late summer, and late fall. So this is broken down as if you were doing hay or taking hay off of this field. As a pasture, I would do a green up, you know, and then something later, late fall. This gentleman's only going to need 200 pounds of nitrogen, 20 pounds of phosphorus, and 24 pounds of potash. And it also gives you your liming recommendations on the far right. So it's looking like he needs almost 1.5 tons per acre of lime. So it breaks it down for you of exactly when to apply the fertilizer and how much to apply. So this is where your yield goals come into play. If you have any legumes, so there's a lot that comes into play that gives you these recommendations. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, are there any incentives or cost share for farm composting and the sale of the product? There's no incentives on actual composting. There are cost shares for composting facilities. So they're not incentivizing us to actually do this yet, but if you would like a composting facility built and you fall under a certain number, a certain category, you can call your soil conservation district and they can get some cost share money for building the facilities. Okay. Back to So now that you have a plan, we want to make sure that you're implementing the plan and using it properly. They do have fines for us if we aren't using this properly. Now this is extreme. They typically, if your regional supervisor came out and was like, let me see your plan, do you have a plan, and you didn't or were not properly following it, they would just give you a warning notice the first hint. But if you continuously don't follow it, they can give you a fine up to $5,000. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But typically they don't take these extreme measures because it's, you know, it never gets to that point. So we're going to talk about a little like kind of housekeeping for the plan. We have to remember that there are some rules on nutrient application setbacks. So typically for your pastures and hay fields, that if you have a stream running through your farm or running through the field, you need to have a 10-foot setback off of that stream. They don't want any livestock, any fertilizer within that 10 feet, mainly because of erosion. You know, we are really trying to decrease erosion in this area. Some of us have sacrifice lots, so anything less, less than 75% of grass is considered a sacrifice lot, and we have to maintain a 35-foot setback from the streams then. Mainly because there's nothing that's, grabbing those nutrients and pulling it down. They're just gonna kind of run off easily. And this is like just a little diagram to kind of to see better. You can see that there is a 10-foot for no nutrient applications. If you're broadcasting, fertilizer down, they want a 35-foot buffer between the stream and where you're fertilizing. If you're directly applying it, it can be 10 feet. But typically for pastures, we are broadcasting our fertilizers. So timing of nutrient application, we can apply any commercial fertilizer or manure from March 1st to December 15th. Any time after that, from December 16th to February 28th, we cannot apply any sort of fertilizer or manure. They have emergency provisions, but this is only for liquid manure, typically the bigger dairy cattle. If we've seen the heavy rains that come late fall, almost into winter, and same with the heavy snowfalls, and they're running over, they will be able to land apply manure. But since we are dealing with solid manure that can be stacked, we have to stack that until the following spring. And as well as say we are in November and we got a strange snowstorm and the ground is frozen, we also cannot apply any type of fertilizer or manure when the ground is frozen or covered with 1 inch of snow. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind as well. So stockpiling manure, sometimes we're gonna have to stockpile it if you're not getting it, if it's not exported. We wanna make sure that, again, you have to use it by the following first spring, so you get basically one year. And you also have to keep it 100 feet away from any surface water, 150 feet away from any wells, springs, or wetlands, and at least 200 feet away from any residents outside the operator's property. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind as well when you're deciding where you're going to be stockpiling your manure for the winter time. Record keeping. Record keeping is super, super important, especially with MDA. When they come out, they do random compliance inspections. They will give you a notice, tell you they're coming out, but you really need to have all your records. You need to have your plan needs to be updated, your crop yields. You have to have all your records if you were to take any hay off of your fields. If you're applying any fertilizer or even lime, you need to write down when, where, and how much, and you need to keep your receipts for any of these nutrients that you purchased. You also, if you're importing or exporting the manure, you need to keep the same, when, where, and how, all of these records. These records you have to keep for 3 years. The crop yield records need to be kept for 5 years. So I typically say to people, just keep everything for 5 years. And then after 5 years, you can do with whatever you'd like for it. But definitely keep the records and keep them handy. So we, at university, when we give out a plan, it's in a binder. And I also put extra pages in the back side of it where you can write it all down. You can keep it all together. You get a binder for each year. So it's just right there and handy for you and for the inspector when they come out. If you are to apply any of these nutrients for yourself, say that you have a buggy and you'd like to apply any fertilizer or any commercial fertilizer or manure, you have to have a voucher training. You have to have, it's called a nutrient management voucher. You also need to take these vouchers are required a 2-hour nutrient applicator course once every 3 years. They're offered very often, different grower meetings online through MDA. I put down here on the right-hand side, this is MDA's site, and they have webinars. You watch 2 hours, sign off, and you're good to go for the next 3 years. Or you can do an in-person. I do in-person sessions in our county offices as well, twice a year. So there's plenty of options for you. So now that you have all your plan, your records are kept together, this is your first plan, now what are you gonna do? So your first year, you need to have a copy of your first year plan and submit something called the new plan reporting form to your regional supervisors. You can find your regional supervisor on the MDA site. They, just like we do, they have like a little map of Maryland. You click on it and it'll give you the supervisors of your county. And basically this just puts you on the books for them for the following years. And once you are logged in with MDA, you will each year, each January, you'll get something called an annual implementation report. This is what we call the AIR. It's due March 1st every year. And it basically just documents the nutrients that you applied the previous calendar year. So you absolutely have to return this or they will come knocking on your door asking for this report. It's super, typically it's already, if you're in their system, most of it's already filled out with the top half. So all you're basically saying, you take your cover letter from your plan, you write what was on your cover letter on this form, unless there were any major changes, and then you turn it in. They're also looking for, there's a back half of this form, they want to know how much fertilizer you put down, and you can fill that out. If you need any help with this, we are more than welcome, we can help you. It's easy. I try to do it at our nutrient voucher trainings every year just to get it out of the way. So this is very important form the MDA wants to see. These are resources that I think everyone should have. This is MDA's, Dwight Dotter is the program administrator there. He runs the program. You can call him, email him, and he can get you in touch with any questions regarding the actual nutrient management program through the state. And then the second one is David Rupert, who is our program leader at University of Maryland. And he can get you in contact with any of our advisors as well. And like I said, you can go on our website, the nutrient management website, and kind of find everything that I gave you today broken down. There's tons of webinars on there as well for nutrient management planning and how to use your plan. There's a lot of good resources out there for you to look at. Are there any questions? Okay.
So there's just a comment here, just in general. It says, better to compost than stockpile in regards to manure. Joining Maryland Horse Council and the Farm Stewardship Committee to promote best practices. And the point was made that Maryland has more horses per square mile than any other state in the United States, which is true. So we could be national leaders in manure management, which is good for both horses and the environment. So just a general comment there.
I 100% agree with that. We as horse owners really need to be more environmentally conscious about this. For a long time, we just didn't pay attention to it. That's simply, MDA was really looking at the larger farms out there, just because they're simply putting down more fertilizer, more manure than we are as smaller horse farms. But the fact is, like you said, we have more horses per square mile than any other state. So we have a lot of horses on small acreage, and we're looking at erosion. Just, we need to really be conscious about the land and our stewardship. So I agree with that for sure. So since if I would take any questions, when we're done, I have a teaching eval as well, that if you guys could fill that out for us so I can potentially keep my job. But no, all of us have to have a teaching eval. And I really greatly appreciate everyone that is here this afternoon. I see one more question. Who has to follow a plan is based on the number of horses or acreage? I can certainly do that for you. So I'll go back to the front for you. So you have to file a plan if your operation grosses $2,500 or more per year, or if you have 8 or more animal units on your farm. So those are the 2 questions that you need to ask yourself. And if you check yes to either of them, then you need to have a nutrient management plan. And I said before, you can get your plan done through the university for free, or there are private consultants in Maryland that can write them for you. And you can find that on our website, or you can also find the private consultants on the MDA website as well.
So there is a quick question about the survey, Erica, that you sent out, how they fill it out. So I can put the link in the chat box and you guys can just click on it.
Yeah, that would be great. Computer is very slow today.
We don't have any more questions. That does.
Maybe we'll put the link in there, but I will go back to the page as well.
Yep, there we go. So if you're looking to fill out the evaluation.
Okay, most of you who are on this webinar today fall under the category of needing a nutrient management plan. You can just answer in the chat box. Okay. Well, if anyone, maybe we should put the link for our nutrient management website on here in the chat box as well, so you can find your advisor. And you can, we are still working every day remotely, but you can email your advisor and they can get back to you, or if you call that number, most of them are checking their voicemails in the office at least weekly. So you can certainly get a hold of them. And Andy will put that in there for you. Well, good. If there's no other questions, we can conclude. Thank you all for taking the time today to sit down and listen to us. We have some more webinars coming up, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you so much, Erica. We appreciate your time and for giving that presentation today and your expertise on that subject matter. Hopefully everyone has learned some things apply to their particular farm and horse keeping. If you'd like to learn more about our upcoming webinars, follow along on our Facebook page. We have events linked there with the login for each of the upcoming Zoom sessions for the webinars that we have still happening here in the month of June. And if you'd like watching them at any point in time on your own or sharing them with others who may not have been with us today, please check into our YouTube channel, University of Maryland Horse Extension. That's where these recordings and more are to help you and just provide some more information for you. So please check those out, subscribe to the channel for notifications on any new videos that do get posted. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will make sure all of these links are posted in the description to the video as well. And we hope that you all have a great afternoon and will join us again next week.